You cry at a movie, something like The Notebook, and then feel a little stupid about it. A certain song comes on, and within minutes it drags up a wave of old pain you thought you'd buried years ago. A stranger being cold to you can quietly sink your whole afternoon. You're too sensitive. Your whole life, people have handed you those same 3 words like an insult. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe them. But here's a question nobody ever thinks to ask. If feeling this much is really such a weakness, then why has nature spent millions of years building people exactly like you? Why does this trait still exist at all? Because it turns out that there's an answer, a real one, backed by science. And it flips everything you've been told about being too sensitive completely upside down. By the end of this, you're not going to see yourself as fragile anymore. You're going to understand what you actually are, and why the world quietly depends on it. So stay with me. Let's start with that question, because the answer is stranger than you'd think. For a long time, scientists assumed sensitivity was just noise, a weakness, a person who breaks a little easier than everyone else. But when researchers actually went looking, they found something they didn't expect. This trait, feeling more, noticing more, reacting more, isn't only a human thing. They found a version of it in more than 100 different species: fish, birds, dogs, monkeys, even fruit flies. And here's the part that matters. In nearly every one of those species, most of the group is wired to be tough and unbothered, while a small minority, often landing right around 1 in 5, is wired to be deeply sensitive. Roughly the same ratio across completely different animals. That does not happen by accident. Evolution keeps building these sensitive ones on purpose, because every herd, every flock, every group needs a few members who feel the shift in the wind first, who notice the predator before anyone else does, who sense that something is wrong while the rest are still grazing, unaware. They're not the weak ones. They're the scouts, the early warning system, the ones quietly keeping everyone else alive. So sit with that for a second. The thing you were told was broken in you? Nature has been carefully protecting it in species after species for millions of years. You were never a mistake. You are a design. The only real question is how you ended up as one of them. There are 2 ways, and which one is yours says something quiet about your childhood. Some people are simply born this way. The sensitive wiring is there from day 1. But others weren't born sensitive at all. They were shaped into it. A child who grows up having to read a parent's moods just to feel safe learns to feel everything, early and on high alert. Their volume knob didn't come turned up. It got turned up by survival. And once it's up, it does not come back down. Born with it, or built into it, either way you ended up as one of the scouts. And living as a scout comes with a very specific set of experiences. Some of them will make you feel finally seen. And one of them is going to be hard to hear. Let's go through them. It starts small. You feel emotions that were never yours to begin with. A friend texts you, falling apart. You show up. You find the exact right words. 20 minutes later, they feel lighter. They thank you and go to sleep. But you? You're lying awake at midnight, carrying the exact weight they just set down. Because a scout doesn't simply hear about the danger, they feel it in their own body. Scientists call it emotional contagion. Emotions spreading from person to person like a cold. Everyone catches a mild version. You catch the full strain. And most nights you go to bed heavy, unable to tell which of those feelings were ever yours to begin with. Then there's the noise. A packed restaurant, the music, 3 conversations, the clatter of plates, all hitting at once. Everyone else is relaxed, laughing at home in it. But 40 minutes in, something in you quietly maxes out. And you're already scanning for the door, feeling guilty about it because nothing is even wrong. You're just full. Uncomfortable in a way that's hard to explain? That's overstimulation. A scout's senses are wide open by design, which is a gift in a silent forest and a nightmare in a loud city. Your nervous system is taking in everything all at once with no filter. So you leave early. You need the dark, quiet room. And you watch everyone else stay out for hours and wonder what is wrong with you. Nothing is. Your instrument is simply tuned far finer than theirs. And when the day is finally over, your mind still won't stop. It's 2 a.m. You're replaying a 2-second moment from earlier. The way a coworker said, Okay, sure, when you shared your idea. Not the words, the tone. By morning, they've completely forgotten it happened. You've built an entire case out of it. That's a scout's brain, still scanning the horizon long after the threat is gone, unable to fully stand down. And here's the one that's hard to hear. Because being a scout in a world that doesn't understand scouts quietly wears you down. You get called too much, too intense, too emotional. People pull away and you don't always understand why. So you start editing yourself, feeling everything on the inside showing less and less on the outside. You get exhausted in ways you can't explain to anyone. Because from the outside, you didn't even do anything. And slowly, a darker belief sets in. That maybe they're right. Maybe you are broken. Maybe if you could just feel less, be harder, care a little less about everything, life would finally stop hurting so much. This is the part almost nobody talks about. Because for a lot of deeply sensitive people, this is exactly where the story goes wrong. The overwhelm hardens into anxiety, the depth curdles into exhaustion, and the scout, the one built to protect everyone else, ends up feeling like the most fragile, defective person in the room. If you've ever been there, I need you to keep listening. Because everything you just heard is only half the truth, and the other half is the part that changes everything. And if any of this is resonating with you so far, if it feels like I'm describing something you've actually lived, take a second and subscribe. This channel is for people who feel everything, and I'd like you to stay. Okay, let's keep going. Because scientists ask the same question you're probably asking right now. If sensitivity causes all of this, like the anxiety, the overwhelm, the burnout, then why hasn't nature let it die out? Why keep 1 in 5 people this way? So they ran the studies, and what they found is one of the most surprising discoveries in modern psychology. It turns out sensitive people aren't actually more fragile, they're more responsive. And there is a world of difference between those two things. Researchers gave it a name, the orchid and the dandelion. Most people are dandelions. A dandelion grows just about anywhere. Good soil, bad soil, sun, shade. It doesn't much matter, it's tough, it survives almost anything. But a dandelion never becomes more than a dandelion. You're an orchid, and an orchid works differently. Put an orchid in bad soil, in a stressful home, a harsh job, people who just don't get it. And yes, it struggles more than any dandelion ever would. That's the suffering you know so well. It's real, and it isn't your imagination. But here is what they discovered. Put that very same orchid in the right soil, the right people, the right environment, enough rest, enough safety. And it doesn't just survive like the dandelion beside it. It blooms. Spectacularly. Far beyond anything the dandelions around it will ever reach. Same sensitivity, same wiring. The only thing that changed was the soil. Let that land. Because it quietly rewrites your entire life. You were never a weaker version of everyone else. You were an orchid being told your whole life to be a dandelion. Your problem was never that you feel too much. It's that nobody ever taught you the one thing an orchid actually needs to know. You don't survive by getting tougher. You bloom by finding better soil. And that, unlike your wiring, is something you can actually change. So what does better soil look like? It comes down to 3 simple truths. Truth 1. Nothing is broken. You were just planted wrong. Stop trying to become a dandelion. You will fail every time because you were never built to be one. Instead, protect your conditions like they matter. Because for you, they genuinely do. Leave the party when you're full. Take the quiet morning. Step back from the harsh environments and the draining people. A dandelion can survive bad soil. An orchid has to choose good soil. That is not weakness. That is simply how an orchid stays alive. Truth 2. The thing you were told was wrong, with you, is your bloom. The deep empathy. The way a song can move you to tears. The way you feel a friend's pain. Truth 3. You're allowed to be an orchid. Because here's the quiet truth underneath all of it. Most of your exhaustion was never the sensitivity itself, it was the shame. Years of trying to be a flower you were never meant to be, and quietly hating yourself for failing at it. That can stop now. You are not too much. You're not broken. You are one of the 1 in 5 that nature builds on purpose. And you were simply never told that a mind like yours is not only okay, but needed. So let this be the moment someone finally tells you, you're okay. Exactly. Precisely. As you are. So the next time someone calls you too sensitive, remember what they are actually looking at. Not a person who's weak, a person who's responsive. An orchid that just hasn't found its soil yet. The dandelions will always survive, but they will never bloom the way you can. In a world without orchids, without the ones who feel everything, who notice everything, who love this deeply, would be a colder, grayer, emptier place. You were never too much. You were exactly enough. You just needed the right place to grow. So before you go, I want to hear one thing from you. Think back to the very start of this. What's the song or the movie or the moment that always gets you? The one that hits you harder than it has any right to? Drop it in the comments. Honestly, reading them is my favorite part of doing this. And if all of this sounded like someone you love, someone who has always felt a little too much for this world, send it to them. It might be the first time anyone has ever handed them the words for who they are. This channel is for the orchids, for the people who feel everything. If that's you, subscribe and stay a while. You're among your own here. I'm Vale. I'll see you in the next one.